And we're live here on YouTube. I'd like to welcome those listening in podcast land, and also my buddy Rich. Rich, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Mike. Had a nice seminar at the church, and so yeah.
Nice. Yeah, we so it's been a crazy week for us. I had a football game, which I'm doing all the media for, which is fun, but late nights. And then this morning I had to be at the school at 7:30, so I didn't leave the school until 11:30 last night because I was setting up for, and then eventually for this morning where I had an esports tournament that went really well. By the way, went great. Had a great time with it. Yeah, we had a great time, and yeah, so we'll talk more about that later and all that. But Rich, we got a busy show for you. We're actually going to we talked last week that we were going to do power rankings this week. We had to push it back because there's so much to talk about with week 1 of the NFL and with the first game of week 2 as well.
And sometimes it is hard to rank a team off of one game.
And actually, we're going to talk about some power ranking stuff in our NFL talk, just because things have changed already in week 2, at least for some of us. But we also have esports to talk about. What else do we got, Rich?
Oh, well, Mike, we'll be going into the NASCAR corner as we have race number 2 in the playoffs of the first round. We'll be talking Cubs baseball like we always do. Yeah, and then like Mike said, talking the NFL, Mike. But what do we got to do first, buddy?
We're going to go ahead and roll the intro. Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa, this is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich. And we're back. Okay, Rich, before we do all of that, we got to talk about eggs versus donuts in the final matchup of the round of 32.
Yes, we do. So it's the final matchup for the round of 32 for entrees. Mike, I went with the eggs. I guess for me, with donuts, I almost got to be in the mood for donuts. It's not something I'm going to go to either in the mood or just having a craving for donuts where the wife can give me some option, or if I'm at the house by myself needing to fix myself dinner, more than likely I'm going to go for the eggs.
Rich, I hate Facebook because I'm not even seeing this poll question.
It was there, Mike.
Oh, I know that it was, but I click on
I'll see if I can find it real quick.
I click on the...
So Mike, what did you go with, sir?
I don't remember what I put on there. I don't even know if I voted on it. I think I would have done donuts. But...
Okay, Mike. I have it up here. We had 9 votes, Mike.
Okay.
Joining us with people that went with eggs were Solomon Stroop, Greg Seckerson, my Aunt Kathy Hassan, Tyler Allen, Craig Johnson, you, me, and Nathan Ross. The one person that said donuts, Mike, was
Jason Flanker. Found
Jason
it.
Flanker.
I had to go to my page to find it, and then even then, when I go and click on it, yeah. Why did I pick it? I would have picked donuts.
Well,
I picked eggs,
it's not,
so I guess. I mean, whatever.
All right. So eggs will move on. I will have to, later on this week, before we record next week, I will have to make the bracket for the Sweet 16 on the...
By the way, and I remember why I voted for eggs. Because you said eggs anyway.
Eggs anyway, yep.
The problem that I had... Now, what we need to change on that, because I think how you interpreted it was scrambled, fried, over medium, over hard, over easy.
Yes.
But technically, and this is why I remember why I voted it this way.
Because you could make it an omelet?
You can make it an omelet. Even though omelet was on there already, eggs anyway could be turned into an omelet.
Okay, that's fair.
So
maybe that's why it was such an overwhelming
yeah,
vote in favor of donuts. But nobody posted comments.
no.
So we have no comments to share to say why anybody
Yeah,
voted the way that they did.
Yeah.
So, Mike, when we have our cereal poll, Mike, this will be the final matchup for the cereal portion of the bracket. Leave a comment if it pertains to the poll of why you voted for either cereal. We'll read it on the air.
Yeah.
And so it's not just me and Mike saying why we voted for what we did.
Yep.
So this week, Mike, it is Cheerios. These are just the plain heart healthy Cheerios, as Honey Nut Cheerios were their own poll. So Cheerios versus Raisin Bran.
I thought you said last week was the final week of. Oh no, okay? Never mind. I was confused.
Cheerios, Raisin Bran.
Okay, I know where I'm voting on this one. I actually do. Both
So
good
do
for
I.
you. Get your fiber in one, and
All right, so
all the
I
other
will
stuff.
try and have that poll up here within the
sometime
next couple of days. Sometime within the next couple of days.
Yeah.
Mike, tell them where they can find the polls.
you can find it on Balls and Sticks, the podcast page at facebook.com/Balls and Sticks, or on the Fans of Balls and Sticks page, which is facebook.com/Fans of Balls and Sticks. Yeah, check it out check out either of those spots, and we'll see you there. Okay, Rich, do you see what's coming up next?
Is it a left turn?
It is, Rich, and after that,
It's another left-hand turn, Mike, and tell them why.
because we're heading into the NASCAR Corner, presented as always by Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated, Moline, Illinois. Check them out for all your sports memorabilia needs on 5th Avenue in Moline or on their eBay store. Once again, that is Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated. Rich, last week we were at the Quaker State 400 in Atlanta. Your winner, Joey Logano, moving him into the next round. Martin Truex Jr. came up 36th. Kyle Busch took 7th. Rich, you won the playoff drivers as Ryan Blaney finished 3rd, and I won the non-playoff drivers as Michael McDowell only got to 22nd. Overall, I'm at 18-15, and Rich, we are tied at 1-1 for the playoffs. This week we are going bowling at the Glen. Rich, you have honors for playoff drivers.
I do, Mike. So when I saw that when they put out the playoff schedule, and because they had to modify where races were going to go, taking 2 weeks off for the Olympics, and you notice that they put 2 road course races within the playoffs instead of the normal one. Oh, okay. I told myself they are really setting up Chase Elliott to get him into the championship round, because he's known for having success at the road courses, which is why at the Glen I'm going to go Chase Elliott.
You know what? I am actually going to go with a different guy who does have a lot of knowledge when it comes to road courses. I'm going to go with Daniel Suarez. Tends to be a pretty good
All right.
at the road courses as well. Rich, for non-playoff drivers, I'm going to pick Ross Chastain. I'm surprised you didn't take him.
Yeah, I don't know, Mike. I like to look at the how people have done on that at tracks when I come to pick my driver and set my fantasy lineup, and Chastain just hasn't had the success at the Glen, even though he has won at Coda. But
Right.
since that Coda win like 2 years ago, he just hasn't performed as well on the road courses for unknown reasons.
He's got a fast car by himself. When he's out there by himself, which is not actually a good indicator all the time, but can be an indicator. He pulled off the fastest lap. He got the pole. That to me, especially at a road course, is a huge deal. So I like it. So who did you pick, Rich?
You know what, Mike? I'm gonna go with the guy that I thought you would pick, and I'm gonna go with Shane Van Gisbergen.
Okay, you want to know the truth?
What?
I didn't actually look at the full lineup, so I didn't see him as I was scrolling the lineup right away. Otherwise, I probably would have picked him. But
And
that's
he's in the
okay.
third. He's in the third. He's in the top 10 as well. But as we know, with road courses, your starting position doesn't always dictate where you go because so many people pit at different times,
Yep.
or you'll have people that will pit right the pit before the pits close before the end of the stage, and they flip the stage so they don't have to pit with everybody else
Yep.
at the beginning of the next stage. So I'll go SVG. Um, if anything, Mike, you took two Trackhouse guys. I always root for the Trackhouse guys. So, but Shane Van Gisbergen is a Trackhouse guy too. So,
Now, Rich, we do have to talk about it. Um, the only other thing in NASCAR we need to talk about is that there are two holdouts for the charters for that NASCAR agreed upon with the team owners.
yeah, 2311, Michael Jordan's group decided not to sign the charter agreement, as did Front Row Motorsports.
Yeah.
Both are kind of up and coming driver groups. They're not probably as well established as the other people that might have interpreted as this is the best deal we're going to get, so we're going to take it.
Yeah, I don't blame them for doing that. Um, I think there is something to be said about uh, Michael Jordan likes to win, and he doesn't feel like he won in this round of negotiations, I suppose. And so because of that, he's going to put it out there and kind of fight that way. I think it's a good thing for him. I think it's a good thing for the team. I think it's actually a good thing for NASCAR, as I think it will force NASCAR to look at what they're doing, um, just to make sure, uh, things are actually, copacetic. And it's hard because right now, with Michael Jordan being there, he's the hotness, and it's going to be hard for NASCAR. I think they have all of the advantage, but he's got the name recognition, and I think that's going to change some things about it. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, if they go all the way to opening day of Daytona, and they haven't signed the charter agreement, would their cars technically have to qualify
Yep.
to be in every single race?
I would assume that would be how it would have to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think Reddick and Bubba Wallace have that talent to make every single round, but crashes do happen in qualifying.
Yep.
Or what do they do in the sense of if qualifying gets rained out? Are they out of
Um,
luck, or do they go off of NASCAR's provisional agreements on how they finish
I think they'll get some
the last
provisional.
races?
They'll probably get, and again, it depends on how the rule books look next year because they can change that.
They could,
Um,
and then how does that affect Front Row Motorsports? As do you have, I don't, because McDowell's leaving, but how does that affect guys like Todd Gilliland and I don't remember the other two guys that Front Row is bringing in, but are they of the same caliber to be able to qualify for every single race without that automatic bid in there for them?
Yeah, no, it's gonna be crazy. We'll see how that goes. I expect they will get a deal done before the season ends. The hard part is that the charter agreement tends to be an agreement for all of the teams. So negotiating one team kind of defeats the purpose of quote unquote charter. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
So it's safe to say whether there's probably more to come.
Oh yeah, totally going to be more news to come on that. But Rich, what's it time to do?
All right, so that is the NASCAR Corner presented by Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated, Moline, Illinois, and you can also find them on eBay. Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated. So Mike, we're going to keep making left-hand turns, but we're going to go to the baseball diamond. As Mike, the Cubbies went 3-3 this week. As they, from show to show, they split the series. They split the 2 games with the Yankees. They surprisingly took 2 out of 3 in New York, out in LA, but unfortunately they dropped the game in Colorado. And while we didn't count Saturday's game in our show to show total, they dropped that game too. So now they're running the risk of going into a 3rd game with the Rockies, trying to avoid a sweep.
Yeah.
And both losses have kind of come in the late innings. So what other good mojo we had going on with the bullpen? Denver, it's gone away in Denver.
Yeah. And part of the problem right now is more to do with you can't hardly lose games. The Cubs really, for their playoff hopes to be alive, really can't be losing games right now.
They can't.
We only have half a dozen left, or we only have 2 weeks left in the season. We don't have a lot of time.
Yeah, so the standings, as with today's game being accounted for, Mike, they are 6 games in back of a wild card, which is we're not mathematically eliminated, but it makes it a tougher.
Oh yeah.
A tougher to make it, being that far back. And we're now 10.5 games back of the division leading Milwaukee Brewers. So Mike, you gave them 2 wins. I gave them 3 wins.
You got it.
So I got the 3 wins at least.
Rich,
I just did not see them getting 2 out of 3 in LA, but I'll take it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Rich, the Cubbies have to have one more game tomorrow night. They have 3 with the A's and 3 with the 2 with the Nationals from now until next Friday or Saturday morning, right?
Yes.
Okay. Where are you going?
You know, when I originally put it together, when I originally put that slate of games out there, I said 5 games, and I'm gonna stick with it. But I was expecting them to be going for the sweep against the Rockies in Denver, and which gives me a little bit of pause. But a lot of people are beating up on the A's.
Yeah.
And we went into Washington and we swept the Nats.
Yep.
So I'm going to stick with 5 games, although it wouldn't surprise me if we only won 3 because we just haven't been playing as well at home, or we just get beat by bad teams.
Yeah.
Because of baseball.
I'm going to pick 4. I think the A's really, like, the Cubs should be able to beat them at least a couple times. And again, sweeps are hard in the majors, so I'm going to say that they take tomorrow's game against the Rockies. It means they only have to get one of the 2 with the Nationals. I think they can do it. The Nationals have been struggling this year too. So yeah, I like the 4. But again, I would not be surprised if it was 3 or even 2 games that we only win 2 games. Because if you don't have a great bullpen, if your bullpen's giving up games like they have the last few days, not much you can do about it. The bats though have woken up in the last 3 weeks. We haven't talked about. We complained early in the season that the Cubs bats have been missing. We've had great pitching, but our bats have not been doing anything, and now all of a sudden it seems like kind of the opposite problem. I mean, we scored 5 today. Now in modern baseball, 5 is not as crazy of a number as it was, say 16 years ago. But 5 is still a decently enough number. Most teams that score 5 should win the game. Like, in general, if you hit 5, you should win the game. And we're losing we're losing those games. So it's crazy to say that month of May and June, our bats were doing nothing. Now they're popping off. By the way, and in May and June, our bullpen and our starting lineup, they were keeping us close most of the time. And yet now we're batting like we haven't batted all year and scoring 32 runs in 2 days or something like that.
Yeah, that they
and yet
Pats really woke up in Pittsburgh.
And yet now all of a sudden we're sitting here and the bullpens can't win games. Even a 5 to 6 game, there's 5 runs in a game. Again, I get it. In modern baseball, is not a huge number, but it's still a pretty and we had an early lead, and we keep blowing it. It feels
frustrating times, Mike, especially when you're playing teams that, on paper, you should be better than.
Yeah.
So hopefully, with the schedule getting lighter this upcoming week, with Oakland and Washington coming in, we can make up some of those games that we lost this week.
Yeah. So we have yeah. So with that, let's go to the NFL. Last week was week 1. Rich, both you and I picked the Bears over the Titans. They pulled it off, but not in the way we thought they would.
No, they didn't. I mean, a win's a win, but it was 24-17. But it was
the offense didn't score a touchdown.
It was less than 100 total yards.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a big blocked punt that got returned for a touchdown by Jonathan Owens, Simone Biles' boyfriend.
Fiance.
And then a pick 6 by Troke Stevenson, which got the entire NFL talking because you saw on the play Will Levis as the Bears are running in, covering up his head in disbelief that he let that happen.
Yeah.
Let it slip away. So do you agree with Brian Callahan's statement of, you know what, I think we could have won this game if we just would have punted every time on first down?
I mean, probably.
I mean, do you remember Happy Gilmore, when they wanted to take the defense out of the game, what do you have his quarterback do? They kneeled.
Yeah.
They just started kneeling and then punted the ball away because they knew their offense couldn't do anything. So
yeah, the Bears, I mean, are in the offseason. The Bears did all the moves that we thought they should do to score or to be a great team in the offense, and then lo and behold, the defense still is what's wins our games. It's ridiculous to me.
it is.
Hey, Rich, I have a question for you real quick.
Okay.
One of my big problems last year was that our head coach said, "Oh, I don't worry about the offense. That's why I have an offensive coordinator and a quarterbacks coach. I don't worry about what's going on with Justin Fields. That's their problem." We fired the offensive coordinator. We got a new one in, and didn't we bring him in from outside too?
We did. We brought him in from Seattle.
Got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Why did that entire game, the offense look like the offense that we were playing last year, including running a screen pass on 3rd and 15?
I don't know, Mike. I was trying to watch the game as best I could.
What offensive coordinator who is worth his weight would run that play? By the way, I was at Okoboji's football game last night, and guess what they didn't do on 3rd and 15?
Run a screenplay?
You don't run a screenplay. how are you going to tell me that high school coaches know better than the NFL coach, the NFL offensive coordinator? And they make that same mistake that they were making last year? Something's not adding up. But because look at when he was in Seattle, was he running those screenplays on third down?
I don't know because I didn't watch too many Seahawks games last
but
year.
I'm pretty sure he probably wasn't.
But
So
I still trust the team, and
you trust Matt Eberflus right now?
yes, I do.
I don't.
A win's a win. If anything, you have a rookie quarterback. It takes a couple of games to get the right offense.
You still chose to throw a screen pass on 3rd and 15. No excuse to that. None. There's no excuse. Okay, Rich.
If anything, so I still want to trust the process, see where this offense is going to go. It's only game number 1.
Yep.
And it's probably the first time that all of those starters have played together. As you're obviously not going to play as how many meaningful snaps did Caleb Williams take during the preseason?
Yep.
At most, maybe 2 quarters worth of snaps in 3 preseason games.
Yep.
So
no, I get it.
You still got to adjust and play together.
So last week, our locks of the week, give it to us, Rich.
All right, my lock of the week was the Bengals over the Patriots, and the Bengals I must have forgotten that the Bengals always start slow, and that's exactly what happened. As I had on the Bears game and the Bengals game on at the same time, switching between the audios, and the Bengals just didn't have it together.
Nope.
So they lost 16-10. Mikey, you went with the Bills over the Cardinals, 34-28 Bills.
Yep.
So you're 1-0.
Rich, your locks of the week. Rich, you picked the Raiders over the Chargers, and that didn't pull off for you. So that's 22-10, the Chargers. You also went 0-1 to start your upset specials. I picked the Giants over the Vikings. The Vikings actually looked amazing this week, and looked way better than I thought they would. And I'm 0-1 and happy to be so. Rich, Thursday Night Football, Bills, Dolphins. Oh.
Did not see it coming this way.
By the way, the score in my reaction to the game, way less than what happened in the game. So the Bills won 31-10. Wasn't even close.
It really wasn't.
And even by the third quarter, the end of the third quarter, when Tua Tagovailoa has another severe concussion with the fencing pose, as they call it.
At least this one, it was his fault.
No, 100% his fault.
He was diving he was diving like he needed the extra yards.
Yep.
To get the first down.
Yep. No, this was 100% his fault.
He was sliding head first. DeMar Hamlin didn't do anything. He was tackling him. He led with his helmet.
Yep.
This one's on him.
It's one's on him.
On the defense.
And he hit sideways. Generally, a sideways hit is bad, but we're going to talk about that in a second. Either way, the game was over by that point. That's the hard part. By that point, they were already talking about what Tua's cousin's dogs had for dinner that night. Like they had already talked. Like the game was already to the point that you knew that the Bills just were walking away with it. The Dolphins hadn't been able to do anything. And then for that to happen, Rich, we're both 1-3 on the year for Thursday night games. So Tua has another concussion. That's our next big talking point of the week. I'm sorry, he has to retire, right? Like, and
I
you sent me a thing, and I love it, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I want to talk. Take away the financial situation. Take away all of that. Let's say it's your brother. You're Tua Tagovailoa's brother. Do you let him step on that field?
I would have a long conversation with him.
I will break his leg repeatedly before I let him get on that field.
Yeah,
I don't care.
Before last year, I think I read a story about talking about the concussions, and his mom was really wanting him to not go back. But he chose to go back and instead take some jiu-jitsu training to learn how to fall better.
Judo. But yes.
I thought it was jiu-jitsu.
No, it was judo.
Okay. He had a big season. He got paid.
He did, and he got a nice guaranteed contract. And we'll talk about the contract in a second because there's some language in there that we looked at and you brought up. But if it's me, I'm breaking his legitimately. If he was in the hospital on Thursday, I'm walking into that hospital with a hammer and I'm busting his knee. I don't care. You're not stepping back on that field. And I will continue to bust that knee until you realize I'm not letting you back on that field.
Yeah, I was glad to hear that his own coach, instead of talking of, you know what, we're going to do what's best for Tua, and we'll get him back. We'll talk with him about what we want him to be good. But instead of going the coach speak of, we'll know more in the morning, or we'll know more once we consult with the medical staff. He came out midweek and he was saying, we told him that you need to be the starting quarterback of your family. Yeah, thinking about more than just the game. Is the game worth it anymore with all that you've taken? That's what I got out of that statement of you need to be the starting quarterback of your family.
100%. I totally agree. Now, let's talk about you sent me that link. Go ahead and read it real quick, or if you want to give a brief synopsis of it. Either one's fine.
So his deal included $167 million guaranteed an injury, 43 of which was already paid before he stepped foot on the field in 24.
Yeah.
If he's medically cleared to return to football, but opts to retire, he'll forego the remaining $124 million.
Okay.
Barring a custom settlement.
Okay.
If he's medically forced into retirement, he has a right to collect the $124 remaining dollars.
Now, ownership aside, I'm actually going to say I think he's forced to retire. Whether it's medically or not, and I hope medically they say no. But if I'm Roger Goodell, he's already on my exempt list. Medically exempt list. Because, Rich, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago, we watched him take a concussion, and everybody's like, "Oh, he's got a concussion. He shouldn't be in." They evaluate him and say, "Oh, he's fine. He can go the next game." Does that fencing position totally screwed up? Out for the rest of the season. And everybody's like, "This is terrible. He needs to retire then." Last year he plays, gets a concussion at the end of the year. Out for the playoffs. In one game, or was it 2 games? I don't remember.
No. He did not have any concussions last year.
Okay.
Fully healthy, okay. No concussions.
Sorry, I misspoke there. But you're looking at it. This year, second game back in the fencing position, out cold. America was angry that they let him on the field last time. Especially what happened the second time. How is America going to take it if he steps back out on the field, A, this season, but B, ever again, or B, for the rest of this season? Like, if you let him go back out there, if you're Roger Goodell and you let him go back out there, you're saying we really don't care about player safety anymore.
Or they're really going to have to defend what not only the team doctors say,
but now it's their doctors.
But the independent doctors about it. And I think at this point with Tua, you can't evaluate him like a person that
you can't evaluate
normally. You can't evaluate him like anybody else in the league.
You cannot,
because of how many concussions he's had in such a short period of time,
and the severity of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and again, they say that they'll tell you, and I agree. I mean, the science says that the little concussions are the worst ones. Well, the little concussions that you don't notice are the worst ones, because what happens is you keep playing and you get more and more damage done while you're still concussed. But I can't anymore. Tua needs to sit down. And the NFL can't allow Tua to be on a primetime game. They can't allow him to be on the game of the week. You can't. You can't allow that. It's one thing when you see it in highlights and it's bad, and like, let's go to the Alex Smith injury. Remember how bad it was?
Mm-hmm.
The perception of it wasn't as bad because not as many eyes were on it live. So most of us saw it in a news report sanitized way. Yes, we all knew that it was gruesome and bad, but we didn't experience it like the people that were watching, the local teams that were watching it on TV for real, or the people at the game. In the same way, if Tua gets this concussion last Sunday, by the way, but let's say he got concussed Sunday for the opener.
On a regional,
on just a regional game.
Coverage game.
We probably talk about it.
I think we would be talking about it, but it's because it's concussion number 3, not concussion number 1.
Right. But we would talk about it, but it wouldn't be the same level of we didn't see it. We would have seen some quick clips of it, but until you see it, like I didn't see it live, but because it was on Amazon, you get the DVR feature, so I just went back and watched the entire thing, watched the entire game after I found out that it happened, and got to the point, and I was like, oh. And you probably, did you go and do that, or did you just watch the clips?
I did neither.
So
for me, I didn't have a rooting interest in the game, so
yeah, and that's fine. But again, if you would have watched it, like you probably would have experienced it differently. And you might have seen news clips and stuff about it. But again, it's in a clinical news fashion instead of me watching it in quote unquote real time. You can't. Tua has to be retired in some way, shape, or form. If I'm the NFL, I'm no longer letting independent. I will clear up the fact that independent doctors are not independent. They are on the payroll of the NFL, and we will tell them what they are going to say, and they're going to say he can't play again.
Yeah, and if it's not the NFL telling him he can't play again, hopefully the words
his wife,
and
his baby,
his family have a little bit more weight now. Because I mean, I understand $124 million is a lot to walk away from, if he somehow gets cleared, but says, you know what, now I don't think I'm cleared, even though you're saying I'm cleared. That's
Hey,
a lot of money to walk away from. But
hey, Rich, I'm going to give you $48 million right now. And then I'm going to tell you that if you work for me for the next 5 years, I'm going to give you $150 million. By the way, if you come back and work for me, I might just throw you in a meat grinder. And yeah, you'll get some insurance money, but whatever.
I don't know. I guess the point that I'm trying to get to make at is that football has been his entire life. He was a college star. He was
That's
probably
true.
a high school star. That's what he loves to do, and he's very good at it.
Tua, if you're watching, and I'm just gonna say it. If you're and I know you're not. I hope you, if this clip ever gets to you, which it probably won't. Nobody's. Rich and I may listen to it later. There might be 2 people on Facebook or YouTube that are watching, but
It's just a hard game to walk away from. Then that's
Tua,
all you've done your entire life.
your
That's
worth
job.
your worth is not in football. Your worth is in you as a human being. You as a daddy. You as a husband. You as a brother. And even if you weren't any of those things, which, by the way, your worth isn't in any of those things. Your worth is the fact that you were created in the image of Jesus Christ. You are worthy to be loved. What you do has nothing to do with that. Christ loved you so much that he gave himself up for you, and that's where your worth comes from. Football has nothing to do with it. And that's what I hope he learns. Because you're right, Rich. You bring up a great point. Guys like Tua have found their worth in football. And the Miami Dolphins have found their worth in him in the tune of 200 and something $million overall. But the fact that he would earn another $125 million, he would have to literally walk away from that. You're right. That feels like a lot of worth, but it's that football's not worth it. You are.
Yeah. So I mean, if anything, I hope he follows the example of Andrew Luck, who eventually decided he'd had enough
Yeah. Yeah.
of all the pain that he was in, or having to. How many injury recoveries did he go through until finally decided, you know what, I can't do it anymore.
And I hope it happens. I hope that happens. The way Tua's been the last few years, I don't know if it will be, but hopefully this is the wake-up call he needs. Okay, with that, we have to talk about the worst person in the world in the NFL right now. By the way, guess what? There's another lawsuit being filed.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson has, once again, it was another, it is a Jane Doe.
Yeah.
But it was a sexual assault lawsuit being filed against him.
Oh, man. So
the thing that I don't get out of this is that why hasn't he been suspended yet? Why is he essentially being allowed to suit up and play for the Browns for their game in Jacksonville?
They're monitoring the situation. That's what the NFL has said.
And I guess, are they following the language of the CBA and saying that, well, he hasn't been charged with anything yet, so we can't discipline him yet?
Well, there's also the actions detrimental to blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I haven't. Have you been able to? Do you know when the alleged acts took place and all that stuff? Or
4 years ago, about the same time that all the other 24 cases came out.
So my guess is probably that I'm the NFL right now. All of these cases came up, and we dealt with it. We knew that this was a thing. Here's my thought process.
Mm-hmm.
Deshaun, he made settlements but never admitted to any guilt for legal reasons. If you're the NFL, you knew that there was a bunch of this stuff that had happened. It happened in the same time frame of all the other stuff. So you've punished him. Technically, you've punished him for this already. They gave him a 1-year suspension for all of those crimes. I'm sorry, not crimes. I'm sorry, I can't say crimes because legally it wasn't. He never committed a crime, according to legal. So I don't want to. For the allegations and the lawsuits, he was punished. So is that legalese enough to say?
Sure.
To not get us in trouble if Deshaun Watson decides to watch this. So, the NFL has punished him for it. Technically, can we punish him again for stuff that we already punished him for?
I don't know. This one throws in rape and sexual assault.
But if there's not enough evidence that would allow prosecution,
okay,
or charges to be placed upon him, is it any? Because a lot of the other ones indicated pretty close to. I mean, I think there were a couple that said that he forced himself on them. I don't remember if any of them officially said rape, but enough, at least enough of the accusations were there that we all know that he's a rapist and has done it to 25 to 30 women that we know of. And by the way, in all of the statements that we've always heard and said, most of them have all included those words that we know of. So, are we surprised that this has come up? No. But again, I would guess that because it's from the same time frame, they can't, not that they can't do much about it, they just will choose not to.
Yeah, and I've heard or read that there's speculation that the NFL doesn't necessarily want to put him on the exemption list and punish him again because they want to stick it to the Browns, who gave him that fully guaranteed contract.
Yep. Now,
so they don't want to give Cleveland out. Now, for me, I'm reading this and I'm wondering at what point.
So here's the better part, though.
Why didn't you put something in the contract that said that if another lawsuit similar to what you already has happened comes out, we have the right to void this contract?
There is actually. So somebody was on Dan Patrick's this week, and they talked about the fact that there is language in there that says that basically he had to sit down and I would guess he had to sit down and write an affidavit and say, this is all of the stuff. There won't be, and he has to disclose all of his discretions or alleged discretions. And if something that was not on there isn't put there, then they have the right to void the contract.
So maybe this was on there and it just finally went public.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And again, here's part whatever of this. If he did disclose it in this, I mean, theoretically, if you're the lawyers, you're going to look through it very closely just to make sure to cover your you know what. But even if he, like, are you going to be like, oh, well, this one. Either way, yeah, I don't know. The guy needs to be locked in jail, in my opinion.
I don't know. At this point,
he's gonna be. He owes people more money. Like,
I don't know. I mean, it's tough, but yeah, I'm more and more. The guy just needs to be blackballed. Just cut, and then just go away. How can we?
I got a better solution. They fire him and bring on
Kaepernick.
Yeah, hire Colin Kaepernick. Actually, blackball a guy that deserves it. By the way, Kaepernick, I don't think he was blackballed. I think he just wasn't good enough. But we're not here to retread that whole argument that we've had already. And he's also been out of the league for 5 years, 8 years.
Yeah, but now he says he wants nothing to do with the NFL as long as Harrison Butker is actively playing. That's another story. That's not even.
Yeah, we're not even on that story right now. Okay, so Deshaun Watson should go to prison. That's basically where I'm at with it.
All right. Now, I'd have to go with just
get him out of the NFL.
And get him out of the NFL.
I'm okay with that too.
Week number 2.
Yep,
the
week
Bears
number 2.
are going to be on prime time going to Houston, Mike.
Yeah, that's not going to be a good game for the Bears.
I would agree. I'd love to see it go the other way as a Bears fan, but I just don't see it happening. So I'm going to go with the Texans.
Yep.
Mike, it's an even week, so who are you going with as your lock of the week?
Chiefs over Bengals, baby.
Okay. Any reasons?
The Bengals look like garbage, and the Chiefs keep looking better.
All right. I don't know if I don't know if I go with it as a lock. That's how I'm picking it, but I'm not comfortable with that as a full-out lock. Because for whatever reason, Joe Burrow's like 3-1 against the Chiefs.
Okay.
But it's early season, and they're not fully healthy.
He's about to be 3-2.
You'll probably be right, but I don't know if I would have taken that as a lock.
Okay.
For my lock of the week, I'm gonna go with the Cowboys over the Saints.
Okay.
The Saints looked good last week, but they were playing one of the worst teams in the NFL.
Yep.
Dallas has a lot better defense than Carolina, and Dallas's offense didn't actually look too bad last week. So,
yep.
Cowboys over the Saints. Mike, who are you putting on upset alert?
The Titans over the Jets. The Jets look terrible. They did not play well. They took Aaron Rodgers out in the fourth quarter because they were doing so bad. The Titans. I mean, the Titans didn't look great and lost in a terrible way, but they were lost against one of the top defenses in the NFL right now. Let's go Titans.
All right. Mike, there weren't a lot of good candidates to go with for upsets this week. A lot of locks, but not a whole lot of upsets to choose from.
Yep.
So I'm going to take the Patriots over the Seahawks. But the only thing I got to stand on is that it's a noon game, and you got a West Coast team going cross-country to play in Boston. So
okay.
I'll go Pats over the Seahawks.
Okay. Thursday Night Football brings the Patriots against the Jets. Rich, I said the Jets once already today. I'm going to say the Jets again. Let's go Jets. Patriots look like dog poop.
But they were good enough. They were good enough to get a win.
Yeah, that's true.
But I can't see an Aaron Rodgers-led team going 0-3, so that's why I'm going to go with the Jets as well.
Okay.
Yeah, are you going to watch this game at all?
Probably not. Nope.
No, me neither.
Okay.
A bad game for Amazon.
Any other NFL talk that you want to talk about now, or should we move into our quick hits?
Even though it's just the two of us, Mike, let's give a standings upgrade for our group. Mikey, we're tied.
Okay.
We're tied 10-10.
Well, that's
after week number 1
and game number 1. Now, 1 week and 1 game, we're tied.
Yep.
10.
We are tied.
Rich, fantasy-wise, I won all 3 of mine. How did you do this week?
I lost both of my games.
You lost 1 to me.
I did. I lost 1 to you, and I also lost in our Dynasty League.
Yep.
Although I'm playing the long game. I'm not panicking. I'm not going to make wholesale changes. I'm playing the long game and believing in the guys that I drafted.
Yeah. Okay. Right now, esports, we had our first tournament this week. We hosted a tournament, and you see those 2 plaques right there. That one there
you go.
And that one there. Those are the trophies for today's win, because we not only won the overall team score, but our number 1 player took home, or will get to take home. We're going to put him in the trophy case for a couple of days or something, or a week or so, but he'll get that trophy there, which says solo champ, which is his to take home.
Nice. Nicely done. So this was an in-person meet, as you had how many schools?
We only had 3 other schools come. The last 2 that we invited weren't able to make it, which was okay. We made it work. But yeah, we ended up it worked great. It was fun. Power went out in the middle of the game, or in the middle of the matches. We were able to get the pool play done. We ended up having to do some stuff, but we had like half power in the building. And then we couldn't get, it was really screwed up. Then we got everything worked. And then we only did the first round in the pods, which is so we had 5 pods and a player from each team at each pod. And you would go out and you would play your match. And after the match, you turn in how many. So it's Smash Brothers. So how many stock you took from the guy that you beat, and that would be your score. And we just added that up, and at the end of the day, ended up winning quite well.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that went well for you, even though it was a quick turnaround time for.
Yeah, I was
from the football game, going all the way, coming back home for a little while, and then getting back out to the school the next morning.
I didn't leave the school because I did the physical setup last night, so I didn't leave the school until about 11:30, and then I got done with that, and I got home about midnight, showered, got ready for bed, and then left at 6:30 or at 7 this morning, and got back to the school at 7:30 this morning, and was there until just about 1 o'clock. So
yeah, so enjoy your day tomorrow, because the Bears don't play until the evening. So enjoy some time with the family before that game kicks off. Hopefully.
I just remembered something. I think. Anyway, with that, Rich, do you have any shout-outs for the week?
I don't have any shout-outs this week.
Well, I don't either. So, Rich, what's it time to do?
Well, Mike, before you do that, explain to the folks why you put 16 years ago as our title, Mike.
Rich, 16 years. By the way, it's just 16 years. It's not even 16 years ago. 16 years. And I don't know if you agree with this, but 16 years ago, Rich and I went to. There was a hurricane. Hurricane Katrina had just happened, and then after the Katrina, there was a hurricane that hit Houston, and they couldn't play the Houston Astros versus the Chicago Cubs in Houston, so they found a neutral site. It was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And back then it was even worse, but it is not a neutral site when the Cubs play the Brewers in Milwaukee, because there tends to be more Cubs fans there than there are Brewers fans. Rich got tickets, said, hey, if I get tickets, do you want to go? I said, yep. I picked them up. We drove all the way up, watched the game, watched Carlos Zambrano pitch a no-hitter. Now, Rich, I called it 16 years because, truthfully, this was the first time that I remember it just being you and me. Most of the time we had at least one or two other people in the car with us as we drove to Cubs games. This was the first distinct just you and me game. And it was the start of the Mike and Rich show.
Yeah, it kind of was.
Which was the birthplace of Balls and Sticks, the podcast. We've been doing this show for 16 years. Yes, we have not been doing this show recorded for 16 years. But driving up there, Rich and I hosted a sports talk show. Just the two of us in the call.
If we were doing a show.
Exactly. Including talking sponsors. Joke sponsors for the most part. Went up, did the show, watched the game, watched an amazing game. By the way, thank you, Facebook, for having the proof that I was at the game. Because, by the way, I put before the game started, heading to the game. I put when we got to the game, we are at the game. And then I put Big Z for the no-hitter. Proof that I was at the game. Now, if that's not proof enough, Rich and I don't care. I don't care if you need the proof. Rich and I know we were there. It was great. But that was the birth of Balls and Sticks, the podcast. So we have been doing this show for about 16 years. Wow. What do you think? You hadn't thought about it that way, had you?
I hadn't thought about it that way. But, yeah, I mean, I probably would say that was the best game I had ever been to. I mean, I've seen one other no-hitter at a game, but it was against the Cubs. So it didn't feel, you didn't really want it to happen.
No.
Because it was happening against you. You weren't the one throwing the no-hitter. You were getting no hit.
By the way, favorite memory of the game for me was when Carlos Zambrano struck out and busted the bat over his knee. And I'm like, yeah, Zambrano, show him you're angry. I use different words, slightly more colorful. And the guy over next to me is like, he just struck out, you idiot. And I'm like, he just busted his bat, you idiot. And he's like, oh, yeah, that's cool. No, that's the second best memory. The best memory was just the sheer elation on that strike three call. Like, I had a recording. I don't know if I still can find it, but legitimately, so also that day, I had just gotten a GPS that plugged into my phone because phones didn't have GPSs in it. But it was the first smartphone I had gotten. It had a camera on it. I was recording the last out, and I literally got so excited. I recorded it, got the last out. We started jumping and hollering. I shoved the phone in my pocket, and all you see is my pocket. But you hear for 10 minutes us hooping and hollering and screaming and hugging people we've never met. And you can hear me, like, I'm a loud guy. I talk a lot. You can hear me lean down to the child next to me and say, you will remember this forever. And I guarantee you that kid probably does. Because that excitement, I don't know that I've ever... I think I was excited at that moment as I was for them winning the World Series. I cried when they won the World Series because I never knew if I was going to get to see it, but the sheer electricity that was in the air made that so much different. That I would say I think that was more. I was more excited for the end of that game than any other game I've been to, and maybe it's right up there with them winning the World Series.
You know, I can kind of agree with that because I think with the World Series, it was when they were getting to make those final outs, it was nervousness because they went to extra innings. That had never happened before, where you were having those feelings of, oh no, it's happening again.
Yeah. And even when it didn't, even when there was the relief that they made it, you still, like, it wasn't, it wasn't one of those things that it was, that you felt was, it's still like, you still had that excitement and all that, but I still think that the sheer electricity, because again, at that point, I had left the bar. I had gone home. I was watching it with my folks. I wasn't with people outside of my immediate family.
Neither was I. I was with my wife. And even when they final out, they got to, I would not take your calls. I was not going to take your calls because I wanted to talk to my grandpa first.
Yeah, and
he's the guy that got me into baseball.
And I'm glad you did, because that's a moment, and it was great. But I mean, Rich, I don't think you've hugged me that tight ever in our lives as you did at that game. So, with that, Rich, you're right. That's a great shout out to end on. Go ahead and tell the people what it's time to do.
Well, Mike, first off, before we roll the outro, Mike, if you want to just have the audio version of our podcast, make sure to look up Balls and Sticks, the podcast, wherever you find your other podcasts. Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, just to name a few. And if you're listening out there in podcast land and you want to see the live recording, look us up on YouTube.
Yep.
But Mike, with that out of the way, go ahead and roll that outro.
Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa, this is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich.